Tommy Jaggi of Fansided here with NFL expert Marcus Mosher as we have reached the NFL trade deadline. Marcus, one of the most highly anticipated dates around the football community. Fans are anxious to see if their team has upgraded, if you're selling. I mean, there's a lot of teams at the bottom of the league. Not surprising to see them ship off some of these players here at the deadline. And we have a massive move today. We're going to talk about everything that we know so far, Marcus, but how you feeling right now?
Yeah, we're going to start with the Logan Wilson trade, right? Cowboys getting that linebacker? No,
that's the one. Yeah, that's the big one that I'm talking about.
Well, we'll get there. We should talk about the Sauce Gardner move to start the Jets trade. Sauce Gardner, their all-pro cornerback, to the Indianapolis Colts for not one, but 2 first-round picks and A.D. Mitchell, who I'm going to get to him in a second. But Tom, what were your first reactions when you saw the move?
Well, I saw the initial post first, and I'm like, Sauce is getting traded 1 year after signing this huge deal, 4-year, $120 million extension this offseason. And I'm like, how is that even possible? And then you go and you look at the compensation, and that's what really got me. And as I'm like, whew, in this day's economy, I mean, we just saw what Micah Parsons went for. And by the way, Sauce Gardner just got traded for 2 first-round picks after signing a massive contract extension. I don't know how to feel about that. I mean, I think it's a good move for New York. I think Sauce is obviously one of their best players, Marcus, but anytime you can get 2 first-round picks for a guy like that. Now I know they're going to have to eat some of that money, but yeah, that is at the top of the price line that you could have possibly expected. And then what does it do for Indianapolis? It's like, all right, are you dead set that is the quarterback you want to roll with for the future? Because now you don't have the draft capital to make a move.
Let's start with the Jets side of things. So whenever you don't have a franchise quarterback, every player on your roster needs to be available in order to make sure that you can go up and get one, because the Jets will not matter as a franchise until they get that guy, right? Like, you are in a conference with Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen for the foreseeable future. It looks like Drake May in that, the AFC East is going to be a player for a long time. So that is the only thing that matters right now, is getting the franchise quarterback. Now you've added 2 first-round picks where you're probably not drafting a quarterback with those picks, but it gives you the ammunition to go up and get that guy, or to move around and make sure that you have players around that next quarterback. So I admire this from the Jets. It's really hard to move on from a cornerstone franchise player in the prime of their career, just months after they gave him a massive contract. But that's all that matters. And I commend them for going out and doing that. As for the Colts, Tommy, I think this is where maybe you and I will disagree a little bit. This is the Colts' best chance to really go for it, right? They are sitting atop the AFC right now. We're halfway through the season. They have a record of 7-2. The AFC looks as weak as we've ever remembered it. And now you've added a bona fide number 1 cornerback that can match up against the top receivers in the conference. At some point, you kind of have to have the stones to go in and try to win, a Super Bowl, rather than thinking you're just going to be able to build and build and build and build. That's just not the way it works in the NFL. Like, the league is set up for these tiny windows. And would I have paid this much for Sauce Gardner? Probably not. But I do admire the Colts saying, hey, this is our best chance at winning a Super Bowl. Let's completely lean into it.
I don't disagree, Marcus, that the Colts are in a window right now and that now is the time to strike because the AFC is wide open. However, I do disagree with the trade in general because of the compensation. 2 first-round picks is a lot. If Daniel Jones falls back down to earth, and we just saw him look like the New York Giants version of Daniel Jones against the Pittsburgh Steelers in week 9, if that's the one that we end up getting in the second half of the season, I think Colts fans are really going to be questioning the motive here of this trade. I know that you got better at cornerback, but is that enough?
I don't know if it's enough, but it gives you a shot. Now you've got 2 really good cornerbacks when Charvarius Ward comes back. With Sauce on the outside, you've got Kenny Moore. You've actually got a defense that can match up against some of the better offenses. We saw them go toe-to-toe with the Rams just a couple weeks ago, and that's one of the best passing offenses in the league. So at least, Tommy, this gives you a chance at making a move.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that obviously it makes Indianapolis a better team. They're a better team with Sauce Gardner on their roster. It's just very curious that you would spend 2 first-round picks on said move. That's the hard part. I have trying to wrap my head around that, Marcus, knowing what Micah Parsons went for. And I think that's the dilemma here.
Here's the difference between Micah and the Sauce compensation, because yes, you see the 2 first-round picks and it's like, okay, how did these guys go for the same price? The Colts are going to be paying Sauce Gardner an average of $14 million over the next 4 years, while the Packers are paying Micah $47 million. That is a huge difference, right? Because the Jets are eating so much of this money, it makes it, it's a big deal. Now, I want to go back to the Jets really quick, Tommy, because in the last 30 seconds, they've also made another move. They've traded away Quinnen Williams as well. So they are completely tearing this thing down. They added another first-round pick from the Dallas Cowboys, who acquired Quinnen Williams to beef up their defensive line. And again, this is the same thing for the Jets that we talked about at the beginning. When you don't have a franchise quarterback, you need to get all the ammunition possible. Quinnen Williams gives you another pick to do it. Now you've got 5 first-round picks over the next 3 years. It makes sense.
Wow, let's go. Let's break that down then, Marcus. I love Quinnen Williams. I've been a huge fan of this guy since he came out as a 20-year-old, still a young football player. For both sides here, I think that's a move. Again, this one to me makes more sense for both parties because Cowboys are getting a cornerstone piece to that interior defensive line. Now you can pair him with Kenny Clark, who's a little bit older, but
I think Kenny Clark's gone.
You think that it's just a rental basis then? He's okay.
Yep.
So scratch that. Let's go forward with Quinnen, whom I really like from Dallas. And so essentially, all right, let's do this then. The Parsons deal, 2 first-round picks, one of those now. So you got Quinnen in a first-round pick for Dallas, right?
Yeah, so that makes it a little bit more palatable. Now the Cowboys defense they've needed some of these defensive tackles, and Quinnen Williams, I believe he's 27 or 28 now, and we know defensive tackles can play a long time in the NFL. We'll see what type of how he fits with Osa Odighizuwa, who the Cowboys just paid, but it's the same thing that the Colts just got with Sauce Gardner, where the Jets are going to be taking on a lot of this money, and that's why the compensation's a little bit higher. But I love this move for the Jets. I understand it for the Cowboys.
And Marcus, I know that New York's roster now, all of a sudden, you unload your 2 most valuable assets. This team is not close. I'm sorry. They're just not close to competing in the conference. They're not close to competing in their own division. You just mentioned Josh Allen, Drake May. Those are the quarterbacks you have to go up against for the foreseeable future. I actually really like the decision to add 3 first-round picks to your arsenal now. Did you already say which first rounder is it?
We haven't heard, but I would assume it's Dallas's first rounder either this year or next year.
Okay. All right.
I
interesting move.
Yet. Yeah.
Really interesting move.
And maybe Dallas felt like, hey, they needed to get. We know that the defensive line was going to be one of their biggest issues moving forward. I think with the development of Donovan Azaraku, with the play of Jadeveon Clowney and Fowler over the last couple of weeks, they felt like getting a big time defensive tackle could really help solidify that unit. Again, this is a team. I was hoping that Dallas wasn't going to make moves for 2025 because they're not a playoff team. They're 3-5-1. They're probably going to finish with 6 or 7 wins at most. But this is a move that you can build long term. He's a superstar, and that's what the Cowboys have been missing on their defensive line.
Yeah, and if Dallas was to do something like that, I think they got the right type of player, a player that you can still build around. As a Steelers fan, Cam Hayward didn't earn his first Pro Bowl until he was 26 or 27 years old. And so Quinnen's got a lot of football left in him. I think he's one of the top maybe 7 or 8 defensive tackles in the NFL. So I do think that this is going to be a good move for both teams. Obviously,
only 27.
Your Dallas Cowboys are looking grim this year, Marcus, but we're looking beyond this year. Cowboys still have got 3 first-round picks over the next 2 years, and now they've got a defensive cornerstone.
Yeah, he's only 27, so that's a good thing. You're going to get multiple years of him under the age of 30. And I do think for Quinnen Williams, if you can put him with some other really good players on a defensive line where you get him up the field, he's a really great player. But again, I think the Jets are the team that they have a clear vision. Like, it stinks to give up 2 awesome guys like this on defense, but to have 5 first-round picks over the next 2 years is unbelievable.
And I think that they understand that it's about windows, and their window is not right now.
Nope.
You do not often see teams give up maybe their two best players at the deadline like this, both in the primes of their career too. So it's very interesting to see these trades firing off here, Marcus. We can come back to that if we need to, but let's move on to some of the other things we've got on the agenda. Jacoby Meyers has been traded. Reportedly, there were several teams interested. The Pittsburgh Steelers, the Buffalo Bills made calls for Meyers, but it was the Jacksonville Jaguars in the end. And you can understand why. Travis Hunter, their top pick, Jaguars' top pick, had to go on IR with an injury recently. Brian Thomas, their first-round pick from last year, suffered a high ankle sprain. And so all of a sudden, this team that's in good position to potentially win their division was decimated at the wide receiver position. They outbid the Bills, outbid the Steelers. They're the team that ended up with Meyers in the end.
I love this trade for Jacksonville. Jacksonville has been their wide receivers have killed them this year, just to be honest. Like Trevor Lawrence has this should have been a breakout season for him, but no quarterback has had more drops than what Trevor Lawrence. Travis Hunter, he's going to miss at least the next 3 games with a knee injury. Brian Thomas Jr. has been a shell of himself. He got banged up. Parker Washington was the number 1 receiver on Sunday against the Raiders. Brenton Strange, their tight end, who is in the midst of a breakout season, he got hurt. I love this move from Jacksonville because it gives them a receiver that's reliable, that can play inside, outside. And Tommy, you and I were talking last night, like Jacksonville's schedule is cupcake the second half of the year. It's going to be almost impossible for them not to get to 10 wins. So you might as well get a guy that can help you get into the playoffs, which I think Jacksonville will. And now when you go into some of these games, you have a reliable option. He's not a number 1 receiver, but he's somebody who knows how to beat zone coverage. He can play in the slot. It's exactly what Jacksonville needed.
It is, and I think it came at the perfect time. They got a receiver who can do it all. He can play outside, play in the slot, runs a full route tree. The guy that you can go to when unfortunate events like this happen. And Brian Thomas was not the same player. He's not been the same player so far for Jacksonville, Marcus. You expect them to just hold on to Brian Thomas at this point, right? I mean, you need all the talent you can get on your roster. No chance that he's gone, right?
I doubt it. I don't know what you would even get for him at this point. You probably get a midday 2 pick. I think you're better off just holding on to him, hoping that something changes. But I would hold on to him if I'm Jacksonville. The same reason that Indianapolis goes all out and gets Sauce Gardner. The AFC is so weak right now that maybe you end up lining up where you play like Denver, Indianapolis, and Pittsburgh in the first 3 rounds of the playoffs, and that's your path to the Super Bowl. I would just want to hold on to all these guys.
I agree. I think that's the best move. Brian Thomas was really good as a rookie. Not sure what happened to him this year, but it doesn't hurt to have all 3 when they're healthy for sure. And we've seen James Gladstone be so aggressive already. Last I knew, he was a 34-year-old general manager, traded multiple first-round picks to go up and get Travis Hunter, now making him move at the trade deadline here. Jacksonville's obviously the best version that we've seen of them, at least in a couple of years now. So maybe this can, I don't want to say put them over the top, because I still think they've got a ways to go, but it at least gives them a chance to compete in a pretty wide open AFC. What do you expect from Meyers now that he's on this team, kind of mixed in with the receivers they already have?
It's been such a difficult situation for Meyers in Las Vegas between all the different quarterback changes. He was brought in as a free agent, and then the Raiders traded for Davante Adams. So the idea was that he was going to be the number 2 receiver, and then Davante Adams leaves. It's been a mess. They've had 4 or 5 different starting quarterbacks. Now you go into a much more functional offense where you know what his role is going to be. He's not going to be asked to be the savior on offense. He's going to be the guy moving the chains. And if you've watched Jacksonville at all this year, that's really what they've been missing. It's the guy on 3rd and 5 that you know is going to get open and catch the ball. If they just had that guy for the first 8 games of the season, they probably have 2 more wins. They've given away some of these games because of how bad their wide receiver core has been. I think Jacoby Meyers, while it's not a needle moving trade for most teams, I do think this is the type of player that can take your offense from average to pretty decent. And that's all Jacksonville really needs with that defense to be competitive in the AFC.
Hey, Marcus, you said that you're a fan of the trade from Jacksonville, but I want to ask you specifically about the compensation the Jaguars had to give up, a 4th and a 6th-round pick. I think, for me at least, this feels like at the high end of what I would have expected this trade to be. Obviously, Jacoby Meyers he's in the final year of his contract. It's voided after this year. Are you getting a half year rental out of Jacoby Meyers? Are they going to try to work out a deal with him as part of this trade?
Maybe. We should mention that Jacksonville is expected to have 13 picks in next year's draft. So that's a lot of picks to use. You might as well use some of these picks. If he leaves in free agency, he's probably going to be the highest paid receiver on the open market, which is probably going to get you a 4th round pick back as a compensatory pick. To me, it's not that big of a deal. I just don't value those top 100, or sorry, those picks after the top 100 all that much, especially when you have a boatload of them. I admire Jacksonville from doing this move. And for the Raiders standpoint, he didn't want to be there. Like, he requested a trade back in August. He's been pretty vocal that he's been wanting to get traded. He actually wanted to go to New England, ends up in Jacksonville, who the Raiders played last weekend. The Raiders drafted 2 receivers, Jack Bech, Dante Thornton. Neither of them played a single snap last week because they were playing Jacoby Meyers and Tyler Lockett and some of these guys ahead of them. Now that the Raiders have lost, I would assume they're going to lean back into 2 tight ends, Brock Bowers, Michael Mayer. We'll see more of Jack Bech. We'll see more of Dante Thornton, and it gives them more draft capital to make up for some of the trades they made this year, like going out and getting Geno Smith.
Yeah, and obviously, when you look at it from Las Vegas's perspective, it makes sense for a team to unload when you are 2-6 and you've got no chance. Like, I'm all for that. I think they're doing the right thing by trying to get younger on that roster. It's not a very good team right now. You look, my goodness, you look at the teams in that division. You've got the Denver Broncos, Kansas City Chiefs, and the LA Chargers. And so they're going nowhere fast right now. All 4 of them grabbing a few more picks there. Marcus, let's go. And by one more note on Jacoby Meyers, interestingly, he has no more than 39 yards in a game in his last month of football now. So I'm sure he's pleased with the trade. He's probably going to be more involved in that Liam Cohen offense over there, if I had to guess.
Yeah, I mean, it was like I said, it was a pretty rough situation for Jacoby in Las Vegas. He did not want to be there. I think he's going to feel much more well used in Liam Cohen's offense, where they can use him out of the slot. They can use him as a Z receiver. I really like this trade for Jacksonville. I like it for the Raiders as well. The Raiders know that they're not going to be a team that's contending this year. Grab some more draft capital and we'll see.
Exactly. Winner, chicken dinner, both teams right there. Marcus, let's talk about your Dallas Cowboys going after linebacker Logan Wilson, who a couple years ago, I mean, this was a guy who I thought was maybe one of the better linebackers in the NFL, a true do-it-all, 3-down linebacker. Kind of has taken a step back in terms of his snap production for the Cincinnati Bengals, and obviously just on the league's most pitiful defense. And so that wasn't helping the situation. So guess what, Marcus? Logan Wilson gets to exchange one bad defense for another. He now joins the Dallas Cowboys for his 7th round pick, right? For Logan Wilson.
Yeah, 7th round pick. I mean, it's a big upgrade going from the 32nd ranked pass defense to the 31st ranked pass defense. This is one of these situations where the Cowboys the Cowboys linebackers were so bad this year that they had to change something. And they played a lot of Kenneth Murray and Shamar James last night. Those guys were dreadful. The hope is that DeMarvion Overshown will be back after their week 10 bye. He's going to be their weak side linebacker. But what they wanted is a guy that can play in the middle of the defense and be reliable. And for all the faults with Logan Wilson, and he has quite a few, especially at this stage of his career, you at least know that he knows where to be. He's going to be in the right gap. He will take on guards. The athleticism is really starting to wane. But they were missing tackles left and right. And maybe having a leader like Logan Wilson with Overshown, now with Quinnen Williams up front, Kenny Clark, Osa Digizua, you can play functional defense. It's a 7th round pick. They can cut him after this year. This is about the least. This is the least that you could trade a player for. I get it.
Yeah, I mean, the compensation is low. The price is right. But it does seem a little bit odd to me, Marcus, just knowing that Logan Wilson is going to be a 30-year-old linebacker next year. The athleticism has fallen off a little bit. He has not been a full-time linebacker. That's played about 2/3 of the snaps this year for the Cincinnati Bengals. What are you getting next year? Because I don't want to break this to you, Marcus. The Dallas Cowboys are not very good right now. And so you are getting half a year this season. Is that it? Are you going to plan on keeping him? Okay.
Well,
But
the thing
why?
is, I think
Yeah.
it's a half season rental for a 7th round pick, and if he plays awesome, then yeah, you can keep him in 2026 at 6 million or whatever his contract is. If you
Okay.
don't, you cut him and you move on. The Cowboys cut almost every single one of their 7th round picks, anyways. I think this is just so defense can be more sound. And honestly, the linebackers have been so bad that they haven't been able to develop other guys on defense. I mean, you watched that game last night. These linebackers are just
Yeah.
missing tackles left and right. They're unplayable. And for sometimes with these late round picks, you're just trying to get to be where you're competent at defense. And the hope is that Logan Wilson can help you get there.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously been really bad defensively for Dallas. Logan Wilson 100% undeniably is better than anything they have at the linebacker position. If it is a half-year rental, I question the philosophy a little bit there, Marcus, but maybe it's just about getting guys around you to play a little bit better. Maybe Logan Wilson can help those guys do that.
That's the hope, and that's why you trade for him. And I think I talked to Joe Goodberry, who covers the Bengals today. He's been wanting to be out of there for a while, but the defense actually played better when Logan Wilson was on the field. But the problem with the Bengals is with their new defensive coordinator, Al Golden, they spent 2 early picks on linebackers, Demetrius Knight and Barrett Carter. They wanted to get those guys on the field. They've been really struggling, but they just didn't see the point in playing Logan Wilson. So he was a healthy scratch last week. The Cowboys, I think they want to be more competitive, even if it means not reaching the playoffs. Maybe this is the step in helping you get there.
Perhaps we'll see how that goes for them. Marcus, let's talk about another wide receiver trade here. Rasheed Shaheed from the New Orleans Saints to the Seattle Seahawks now. And I wasn't surprised to see him get traded. I think that, Seattle, obviously, they're kind of like the Colts right now. They're that surprise team from the NFC, though. And Sam Darnold, there's a lot of parallels there. Sam Darnold is kind of like the Daniel Jones resurgence reclamation project, if you will. Rasheed Shaheed, solid wide receiver. I was a little taken aback by the trade compensation. Again, though, to me, I watch this guy and he's got a trick, and I think it's a really good one. He's can win deep. I think that's important. But a 4th and a 5th round pick for a half a year, Rasheed Shaheed, is that too rich? Is that too rich?
No, I think the Seahawks stole Rasheed Shaheed.
Why?
I'm shocked they got out that cheap. This is a perfect fit all the way around. In terms of what you wanted to pair with Jackson Smith and Jigba and Cooper Kupp,
Sure.
you get somebody who can play on the outside as a X receiver. That's the difference here. So he can actually be an X receiver and make plays down the field. He's open all the time. If you look at any of the advanced scores from either ESPN or Pro Football Focus, his ability to get open is wild. He's just been the victim of terrible quarterback play. But another reason I love this so much is that he's going into an offense that he knows well. Clint Kubiak, the offensive coordinator in Seattle, was the offensive coordinator last year with the Saints, and he couldn't say enough about Rasheed Shaheed and what he does to this offense. And with Seattle being a team that likes to be under center, that likes to use play action, that likes to throw the ball down the field, you got a legitimate deep threat that can help open up the run game, open up targets for JSN, create big chunk plays in the passing game. It's not going to be hard for him to get involved in this offense right away. He doesn't need 7-8 targets to be impactful. I love this move for Seattle.
You are a much bigger Shaheed fan than I am. We've had this conversation before, and to me, he feels like a bit of that one trick guy. And I think that it's great for Seattle. I think that he complements the receivers that they have very well. He can be the field stretching type receiver. To me, though, I'm like, all right, I think it's probably a little bit on the rich side, but go for it. You're a really good team in the NFC. I think you're as good as pretty much any team over there. So if you want to give up that compensation, by all means do so. He's never had more than 719 yards in a season. The last 2 years, he's never had more than an 80 passer rating when thrown to. He's averaging 11.3 yards in his reception this season, 7.6 yards a target, the lowest of his career. Obviously, those are quarterback connected stats, but as from his rookie season to his sophomore season till now, his efficiency has dropped in each of his first 4 years. If that continues, obviously won't be very good. I fully expect him to take a big step forward playing with Sam Darnold, who is a big step up from Tyler Shuck and Spencer Rattler in New Orleans. So I do think he's going to be efficient for them for sure. I don't know how often he's going to get targeted with JSN hogging all the targets there, as he should. He's awesome. But it's just an interesting move. And I think that it's one that's going to benefit both teams here.
And that's why I love the fit so much, because when you have a number 2 receiver that doesn't need a bunch of targets, they've got to be efficient. And in this offense with Sam Darnold, who is easily the best quarterback that he's played with in his career by a massive margin. I mean, there was a stretch where he had Taysom Hill for a 6-game part of his career. It's the perfect complement. And now this is already one of the league's best offenses. They were starting to use Torrey Horton more as that guy that can be like the Z receiver. I just think Shaheed can make this offense go to another level. I'm super bullish on the Seattle team. To me, they're like one of the teams that could go into any building and beat any team because they've got an awesome defense. They've got a mastermind head coach that is so good at scheming up pressure and coverages. And I think they've got one of the best play callers in the league in Clint Kubiak. And now you've added another weapon on your offense. It's already elite. I think this is a huge win for Seattle.
Marcus, who's the odd man out here in Seattle's receiving core? Who gets the shaft because of this? Torrey Horton's coming off a great game, by the way. 2 receiving touchdowns. I was bullish on him coming out of Colorado State this year. Athletic, twitchy, wiry guy that can adjust to the ball. I think that he's a good player, and I think that he's proven to be good so far. Who sees their snaps reduced because of this?
Probably Cooper Kupp. Now, I do think he's going to have a role like on first and second down as a blocker because he's still really good in that. But I think Shaheed and JSN are going to be your clear-cut starters. And I don't think you want to put a ton on the plate of Torrey Horton because he is a day 3 pick. You want to rotate him in, get him in situations where he feels comfortable, have him know like 10 to 12 plays every week that he's going to be involved in. I would assume it's going to be Kupp that sees a decrease in targets, but that was already happening anyways. Like you could see that this offense was changing because they wanted to get faster and more dynamic. I got to believe he's the odd man out here.
Yeah, and for a team, like I said, Marcus, a team that is competitive, that will be in that playoff race this year, a 4th and 5th round pick is small potatoes at the end of the day. I love the coaching offense-defense combination of Mike Macdonald and Clint Kubiak. I think that's one of the best pairings in the NFL in terms of what they bring to the table for both sides of the football there. So Seattle's got something good going for them. We'll talk about their most important player here in just a minute, Marcus, but let's move on and talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. Are they in danger of missing the playoffs? I mean, all eyes were on this Bills Chiefs game in week 9, game of the year, right? Like that's what everybody wants to see. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. It's produced some of the best games that we've witnessed over the past several years in football. The Bills got the lead. They held control pretty much the whole game. There's a talent issue, I think, in some ways on the Chiefs. They were obviously without, I think, 3 offensive linemen in that game. That didn't help. But now you drop to 5-4. And we look at the schedule that's ahead of them, Marcus. The Denver Broncos twice, the Colts, Cowboys, Texans, Chargers, and then you got games against the Titans and the Raiders. Are they in trouble now of missing the postseason considering what's ahead of them?
Yeah, they're in massive trouble. And I think it's just so easy to dismiss that because it's the Kansas City Chiefs. But this isn't the Kansas City Chiefs of like 2021 and 2022. This is a very flawed version that's 5-5 in their last 10 games, that has struggled against some of these better teams. And they're just no longer a lock to go on the road and win these games. And we saw that against Jacksonville and a couple weeks ago. I think they probably get to 10 wins, just to be clear. I think they get to 10 wins. But go through the teams in the AFC. Like one of the teams they're competing with is Jacksonville. They've got a tiebreaker over them. Buffalo, probably going to be a wild card team because of New England in the AFC East. Buffalo has got a tiebreaker over them as well. How about the Chargers? The Chargers are likely going to be in that race after having 6 wins already. They don't have the tiebreaker with the Chargers as well. So they're going to have to get to 11 wins in order to make the postseason. And that's just hard with games at Denver against the Colts, who just got a whole lot better. The Texans, who have given them problems in the past. The Chargers down the stretch. This Chiefs team is going to have to really get better over the next month or so if they want to make a postseason push. I kind of think the division is already out of reach for them a little bit, especially if the Broncos win one of the 2 meetings. This is a Chiefs team that if they make the playoffs, they're going to be the 6 or 7 seed. And that means they're going to have to go on the road the entire way through. Don't count them as an automatic playoff contender right away.
Yeah, Marcus, I'm glad you brought up the tiebreaker thing too, because I don't think that gets talked about enough. The fact that they are missing the tiebreaker for those three teams that can be in contention right there for one of those wild card spots as well is concerning, because you start with head to head. If you don't own the head to head over the opponent that has that same record, if they, let's say the Bills don't win their division because the
Yep.
Patriots are playing so well, and then you don't have the head-to-head, that could essentially knock you out right there. So I do agree with you. I think that 11 is the magic number here for the Kansas City Chiefs. Can they get there? I mean, you could go game by game, but it's hard to predict with this team and the way they've played so far. I don't think anybody would have expected they would be a 5-4 team. I think the two monster games on their schedule are against the Denver Broncos. Divisional games, you have a chance for essentially a 4-game swing. If you can win both of those, make Denver lose both of those, that's a big difference in their own division, let alone the playoff race.
Yeah, I mean, this is a Chiefs team. I can't stress enough. It's not the same team that we are used to seeing from a couple years ago. This defense can be bullied up front. They are actually, I believe, after the Bills game, they're last in EPA per play when teams are under center. It's because Chris Jones got really old and they haven't done a good job of replacing him. Nick Bolton continues to be one of the most overpaid linebackers in the league. The secondary is still very good, but this is not a defense that you feel afraid of playing. I will say, because of the way the Chiefs are built, if they make the playoffs as a 6 or 7 seed and they play like your Steelers or they play the Broncos or the Patriots, they're still going to be terrifying because it's Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. But I just don't think it's a lot that they even get there.
They're not the same team. I think that's fair to say. Their talent has taken a step back. I like Josh Simmons, who hasn't played in a while for personal matters, but other than that, their drafting has been bad recently, and that's not helped their cause at all. And so when you miss on that many picks over the years, it starts to catch up with you. That's what we're seeing right now. Chris Jones is not the same player this year. Don't know what happened to him. Just kind of fell off all at once. And so there is a talent issue that needs to be addressed. At the same time, Marcus, I have a hard time not being the person that says, I will believe it when I see it. Kansas City making the playoffs, I'll believe it when I see it. You still have a top 3-ish quarterback in the NFL right now in Patrick Mahomes. I think that they get there at the end of the day, but I do think that it comes down to probably a week 18 game. Looking at their schedule, though, it is hardly a cakewalk.
No, and that's why these next 2 games, Broncos, Colts, they kind of have to win both of them. If they split them and you're 6-5, maybe you can go on a little bit of a run, but it's not going to be easy for this team that really needs to get to 11 wins. I think the hope is that maybe one of these teams like the Jaguars take a step back, but with the addition with Jacoby Meyers, with their cake schedule, I just don't see that happening.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the MVP race now. And the guy that we were just mentioning, Patrick Mahomes, was the front runner to win the MVP according to odds from DraftKings Sportsbook up until the results of week 9. What happened in week 9? The Chiefs lost to the Bills. And so now the odds have flipped. Josh Allen is now the favorite. Patrick Mahomes is the runner-up. But I want to talk about a guy that's not even in the top 5 of this race now, Marcus. And I said we would come back to him, Sam Darnold. Is it because of his name? Like, he's bounced around the league. Like, if you look at what Sam Darnold has done, he's 6-2 this season. He has over 2,000 passing yards, averaging over 260 yards a game, 9.6 yards an attempt, leads the league by a mile. That's an elite number. At least 9 net yards per attempt, at least 9.4 adjusted net yards per attempt. He has a 116 passer rating on the season. And oh, by the way, he has 16 touchdown passes too through his first 8 games. And Marcus, he is 20-5 over his last 25 games as a starter in the NFL. Is he just getting complete? He's plus 2,000 odds right now. Is he just getting completely overlooked, or does he actually have a chance to win this award?
Oh, I think he's got a great chance. And I think the addition of Shaheed is going to help because I think he's going to hit more of these big plays. I think the only issue is that usually the NFL MVP comes from a number 1 or number 2 seed. But because the NFC West is so good and the Rams are just this awesome team, there's a chance that it's the same thing that happened last year where the Seahawks end up being like the 5 seed with 13 wins, and it's really hard to give the MVP to a 5 seed. But do I think he deserves it? Yeah. Tell me a quarterback that's playing better football right now than Sam Darnold. He was 16 of 16 to start that Washington game, just in complete command. This offense has never looked better. And how about Seattle making the decision to move on from Geno Smith, who had some really good
Oh
seasons,
yeah.
signing Sam Darnold, and now it feels they got him on a very reasonable deal. And now it feels like they have their franchise quarterback for the next 3 seasons on one of the best contracts in the NFL. I think he's got a great chance of winning the MVP award. And I'm so happy to watch Sam play this well because of how difficult it was for him with the Jets and with Carolina. I think everybody thought he was just a complete bust. And I do think it's important to get with a coordinator that knows how to best utilize your strengths. And we're seeing how big of a difference it can make.
Yeah, I mean, the Seahawks decision to move on from Geno and add Sam Darnold in free agency has to be the best roster move of any team in the offseason. I think the only one that's comparable is the Colts' decision to sign Daniel Jones. And honestly, what would have been better for them? Sign Sam Darnold. I think that would have been the upgrade over Daniel Jones, especially in that particular setting. Sam Darnold has been so good. And I never thought that we would see this. You go back to his days with the Jets and the Panthers, like this guy is going to be career backup and he's going to get bounced around the league. And man, he leads the Vikings to a 14-win season last year, and he looks like the real deal. I mean, I have to go back on some of the things that I've said about Darnold in the past, but he absolutely looks like the real deal. Marcus, my question though, when it comes specifically to the MVP race, we know a lot of people that vote on these. We know the AP awards here. Is he big enough in terms of name recognition? Because certainly on paper, he's the most efficient quarterback in the NFL right now. He's grading out as one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Like, there's a ton of metrics that back up his performance. But if he doesn't end up leading the league, let's say in touchdown passes or in passing yards, is he a big enough name recognition to have a chance at this award if he doesn't lead in those major statistical categories?
Remember, this award is really more of a narrative-based award. It's not actually who is the best player every year, because otherwise it would just be Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen every year, right? It's a lot based on who's having a year that's surprising or which team is way better than we thought. And I think Darnold kind of hits a lot of those metrics. It reminds me a lot of like the Cam Newton year in 2015 where he won the MVP, or when Matt Ryan won the MVP with the Falcons and with Kyle Shanahan calling plays. If the Seahawks can get to 12 wins, 13 wins, and Sam Darnold leads the NFL in passer rating, he leads the NFL in yards per attempt, I think you're going to have a really hard time not giving him the award. Those are generally two of the metrics that voters look on the most: yards per attempt, passer rating. And again, with this style of offense, I have a hard time seeing him not lead in those categories. So I do think he's got an excellent chance to win the award.
I think so as well. And the other question that I would throw over to you, is that going to require Seattle winning their division? Is it going to be good enough if they have to do this as a wild card team?
Yeah, that's the thing, is I think Seattle's going to have to win their division, but they built a team that matches up really well against the 49ers and the Rams. And we've got a lot of divisional games coming down the pipe here in November and December. Those are going to be must-watch TV. And honestly, with the way the NFC playoff picture is shaping up, that NFC playoff is going to be a gauntlet. So it's really important that these teams win these games, get home field advantage. If Darnold can take care of business in those games, a couple of them which are in prime time, I think he has a great shot of stealing this award.
Yeah, and just so I'm going to fire off the odds real quick one more time here from DraftKings Sportsbook. Plus 180 for Josh Allen. Mahomes, plus 350. Drake May, plus 425. Matthew Stafford, plus 550. Baker Mayfield, who we talked about on this show, plus 1,600. Sam Darnold, plus 2,000. And narrowly behind him, Marcus, is Lamar Jackson at plus 2,200, who's missed a month of football already. But, I mean, you go with what bettors are going to do. You tempt them into that one right there. Is there any other, have you seen any other trades coming in, Marcus?
Well, we should mention the compensation on the Quinnen Williams one, because we didn't get that initially. It's a 2026 second round pick from the Cowboys, and then a 2021 round pick, which it's the higher of the two picks between the Cowboys and the Packers. Generally, the way the teams view these first round picks is if you're trading it away 2 years from now, it's worth about a second round pick. I think the Cowboys are going to be trying to go all in next year. They have 2 first round picks. They've got a bunch of cap space. I think they're hoping that they can be contenders and maybe that picks in the 20s. They also included Mozzie Smith in the trade, who was a healthy scratch last night for the Cowboys. The Cowboys shed a little bit of money there as well. But for the Jets, I actually really like this strategy of stacking the first round picks. You already had 2 coming up in this year's draft. Now you've got 3 in 2027, which is expected to be another really, really good class. Kudos to the Jets for having a clear view of their organization and the direction of the franchise. And now they're actually giving themselves a window to be competitive in the future.
Yeah, I'm just looking that up now. So you said it's a first round pick next year.
It's a second round pick in 2026
pick.
and then a 2027 first round pick.
That's kind of steep. I like Quinnen a lot. That's a lot of compensation. Oh man, what do you guys think? Let us know in the chat below. Any other trade news, Marcus?
No, it sounds like the Jets are still trying to get some more trades done. Breece Hall has been somebody that's been mentioned. They're trying to get a third round pick for Breece Hall. Jermaine Johnson, their defensive end, they're hoping to maybe get a second round pick for Johnson as well. So this is a fire sale for the Jets, and it's hard. It's not hard to understand why they're going that direction.
I know some Jets fans. I work with some here at Fansided. Man, they're distraught a little bit. They're a little discouraged about their team just in this perennial state that they can't get out of. But I think the encouraging thing there is you've got so much draft capital coming up. So it's going to make the drafts fun, if nothing else, Marcus. Let's get to a couple of notes and takeaways from week 9. We talked about the Bills and the Chiefs game overall already. Marcus, how important was that game for both teams there? Would we be looking at Buffalo in a state of emergency had they lost that game?
No, because their schedule's so soft that they're going to get to 12 wins regardless. I think of all the Chiefs, Bills regular season and playoff games, this is about the least important of them all.
Yeah.
Buffalo generally does a pretty good job of beating them in the regular season. Does this make me feel like they can beat them in the postseason if they were to match up? No, probably not, which is why it was a fun game. It was competitive. I just don't know how much it moves the needle.
Let's talk about my Steelers real quick before we're done for today's show, Marcus. Beating the Indianapolis Colts, that required 6 takeaways to get the job done. And I what's so funny is this is their second time this season where they've had at least 5 takeaways in a game. The other one came back in week 3 against the New England Patriots, who are ironically, those are the 1 and 2 seeds in the AFC. But man, this Steelers philosophy is you've got to take the ball away in order to have success. It's not lasting. Marcus, are the Colts fraudulent because of that game against the Steelers? Are you still a believer in Daniel Jones, Shane Steichen, and the Indianapolis Colts after watching what the Steelers did?
We said last week, this was a big game for the Colts, right? They needed to show they could go on the road against a defense that has not been playing well and get it done. Instead, you have 6 turnovers. It was sloppy. They had to have a lot. Was it 5 fourth down conversions just to move the ball? I don't want to overreact too much to a game where the ball just did not bounce their way. But I think you can see why they wanted to go out and make another move, because they need to be able to lean a little bit more on their defense in these games where maybe the offense isn't cooking. I do think it's really important that the Colts get home field advantage. They're just a completely different team when they have to go on the road. I don't like them having to play outdoors, especially once we get to January and maybe February, right, where you're going to be playing in some bad weather. This game, I've never been believers of the Colts being like a legit Super Bowl champion, but I don't know if anybody in the AFC is. So I don't know how to feel.
We'll see what lies ahead for them. We go live on this show every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. Next week, we will be doing a Monday show because of the holiday coming up here. You can follow Marcus on X at Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on X at Tommy Jaggi. You can download the Stacking the Box podcast wherever you get your podcast. Also check us out on YouTube. You can follow my written content on stillcurtain.com. Marcus's written content on the Fansided NFL Network. Be sure to check out fansided.com for all your daily sports news and opinions. And thanks again for listening to Stacking the Box.